I'm not sure if you know this, but there's a hidden meaning behind Strawberry Fields Forever. So, when the Beatles released the song in 1967, they weren't just putting out another single. This time, they were offering a peek into the mind of John Lennon. Unlike so many of their earlier hits, which dealt with love and youth, Strawberry Fields Forever is layered with mystery. And over the decades, this psychedelic ballad has become timeless and still remains one of the greatest songs ever written. But what does it really mean? Hey up all you rock and rollers, I'm Rock and Roll Archives and I'm back with another video. And this time I'm doing a trilogy of videos based on the Beatles' finest moment, Strawberry Fields Forever. So here's part one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Lennon once said that Strawberry Fields Forever was psychoanalysis set to music, but what does that actually mean? So, I think to start, it's important to ground the song into something real. So, Strawberry Field, not Fields, was an actual place. It was located in Walton in Liverpool. It was a Salvation Army girls' orphanage near Lennon's childhood home, and that's where John, as a child, would often play in the garden, and in order to do so, would have to climb the fence with his friends. He later said that Strawberry Fields is anywhere that you want to go, and it's quite a mysterious description, really, and that he felt a kinship there with the orphans because, well, despite the fact that he lived with his aunt, he felt like his parents had abandoned him. So, why is Lennon thinking about the days he had as a child when he was a multi-millionaire rock star? Well, I think we should just circle back to his childhood first. You see, Lennon's upbringing was marked by instability. So, John Lennon's father, Alf, was a merchant seaman who spent long periods away at sea, while his mother, Julia, was lively and free spirited, but unable to provide stable care. After concerns were raised by social services about his mother, John was sent to live with his Aunt Mimi in the quiet suburb of Walton. He wouldn't see his father again for over 2 decades, and at just 17, he suffered the devastating loss of his mother, who was killed after being struck by a car while crossing the street. And the sad finality to it is it was not long after they'd reconnected after so many years. So Aunt Mimi brought John up with an iron fist and wasn't one for kisses and affection. Obviously, I can't say anything with any certainty, but it's often thought that the upbringing of John by Aunt Mimi led to a lot of his insecurity and his emotional issues. Cynthia, John's first wife, said that Mimi loved to fuel the image of the stern but loving aunt who provided the secure backdrop to John's success. But she actually battered away at John's self confidence and left him angry and hurt and humiliated. And his half sister Julia added that Aunt Mimi was a hypocrite to the core. But however, this is the same woman who fed him, clothed him, gave him pocket money, paid his art school fees. Nothing's ever easy, nothing's ever simple. So to John, Strawberry Field offered a temporary escape, a quiet space where his imagination could thrive. In this light, the song becomes a kind of self-soothing mantra, and that returning to Strawberry Fields allows Lennon to escape the anxieties of adulthood and fame, reconnecting with a version of himself untouched by pressures of Beatlemania. Because escaping to Strawberry Fields is what he did as a child when it was all getting too much for him. And when Lennon sings,
Living is easy with eyes closed, misunderstanding all you see.
he's not just being philosophical, he's describing a mental retreat to the comfort of his childhood safe place, a place where things don't have to make sense. So, Strawberry Fields Forever, fundamentally, I think, is a song about escapism. You see, Lennon wrote it during a time of growing disillusionment with fame and his own identity. The Beatles had done it all by this point. They had to invent new milestones in order to keep reaching new heights. In the post Revolver but pre Sgt. Pepper era, the Beatles had decided to stop touring, and Lennon in particular was feeling unmoored by this. If they weren't going to tour anymore, were they even still going to be the Beatles? So he'd actually recently acted in a film called How I Won the War, which was directed by Richard Lester, and had begun experimenting heavily with LSD, which left him feeling a lot less confident in himself. And in between filming scenes of the film, he began writing a song called It's Not So Good. In the mid 1960s, it's obvious to any fan that Lennon was heavily influenced by LSD. which opened a new door to a new way of thinking about sound and his poetry. And we should be thankful for the music that we got. It's often known as one of the Beatles' greatest periods, but one of the most striking things about this song is how it mimics the experience of disassociation. The shifting melodies and the jarring tempo changes make it feel like one of the psychedelic trips that Lennon was having at the time. He was really getting into LSD at this point as a form of escape, and using that as a major force to influence his music. While he later distanced himself from the drug, its influence is all over this song and in its words, and the disjointed logic in the words echoes the psychedelic experience, and the stutters and the uncertainty of the lyrics matches Lennon's own lack of confidence in himself in this period. So, like, take the line,
Always know, sometimes think it's me, but you know I know when it's a dream.
this is pure stream of consciousness, almost schizophrenic. He doesn't trust his own thoughts. Lennon is grappling with his own perception and he's unsure of what's real and what's imagined. Was he just on too many drugs? But lines like,
No one I think is in my tree. That is, you can't, tune in, but it's alright.
reflect his sense of alienation perfectly. The tree symbolises his unique headspace. He's not better or worse than others, just different. No one is in his tree, nobody's like him. But that's okay, he says. It's alright. And the lyric has often been interpreted as Lennon wrestling with feeling misunderstood, even among his own peers. John does his best to come to terms with his difference from everybody else in this song. And he told David Sheff in the Playboy interviews, the second line goes, no one I think is in my tree. Well, what I was trying to say in that line is, nobody seems to be as hip as me. Therefore, I must be crazy or a genius. It's the same problem as I had when I was 5. There is something wrong with me because I seem to see things other people don't see. Am I crazy or am I a genius? What I'm saying is, in my insecure way, nobody seems to understand where I'm coming from. I seem to see things in a different way from most people. But it's worth noting that there's a darker undercurrent to Strawberry Fields Forever that I often think gets overlooked. Some scholars and fans interpret it as a meditation on death, not necessarily like normal physical death, the dissolution of identity. Look, it's a bit of a hippie thing. I don't really get it 100% either. And the tone of the song is generally quite eerie. As Lennon returns to the safety of Strawberry Field, he says nothing is real. It kind of captures a bit of despair. If nothing is real, then what is the point? What gives life meaning? Nothing is real too could be a sign of John's desperation for some genuine human connection. In 1966, he was one of the most famous people in the world. So no doubt he'll have been surrounded by people desperate for an inch of his fame. Look, the man may have just been trying to seek some true friendship and some like real genuine connections. And that how he felt that nothing or nobody was real around him. Lennon had long struggled with questions of identity. As a Beatle, he was part of a global phenomenon, but privately he was unsure, and this could be centered on his childhood abandonment. And the song reflects a desire to shed all of his masks and return to something pure, like those days with his friends at the Strawberry Field orphanage. Technically, he has everything he ever dreamed of, so why isn't he happy? And some fans have leaned towards the idea that Strawberry Fields reflects the afterlife, based on nothing more than the atmosphere of the song and the line nothing is real. And to be honest with you, going off that, it's fitting to mention that Lennon's memorial in Central Park is actually called Strawberry Fields. Coincidence? Author Francis Kenny claimed the song was actually about Gladstone Hall, a reform school which is a place for young offenders. In that school, there were lots of unhappy, rejected children, and that was how John Lennon felt. He explained in his book, Understanding John Lennon. He was living with Mimi, and Mimi was bad news. We know that. She was very controlling of John and a really toxic influence, which revealed itself in him in later years. Though, naturally, Kenny is the only source for this. So by the time that Lennon wrote Strawberry Fields Forever, he had begun to confront his own mental health issues more openly. Though, still a bit indirectly, mainly through substance abuse. And I think this song feels like a safe way to explore those themes. As with most Lennon songs, the best way to understand the man is through his poetry and his art, never his interviews or whatever he said himself. And wrapped in dreamy instrumentation and cryptic lyrics, Lennon could then vent his confusion, his depression, and longing without having to lay it all bare. In a way, Strawberry Fields Forever foreshadows the raw honesty of his later solo work, especially songs like Mother, Happiness is a Warm Gun, and Isolation. But here, it's still like cloaked in metaphor and myth. It takes a little bit of digging and a little bit of interpretation to come up with anything. I think it's just sort of John Lennon just testing the waters of vulnerability, see what he can get away with. But even the structure of Strawberry Fields Forever reflects its themes and what it's trying to say. So most pop songs follow a fairly predictable pattern. Verse, chorus, verse. But this track, it shifts, it stops, it restarts, it evolves, it opens with the chorus. The fragmented arrangement reflects Lennon's shattered mindset and his like fractured thoughts. It was the perfect preview of the experimentalism that would define Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which actually would begin recording just a few weeks later. As always, it was credited to Lennon and McCartney, but Strawberry Fields Forever was almost entirely John's creation. And in contrast, its flip side, Penny Lane, that was Paul McCartney's nostalgic tribute to Liverpool, and the two songs were released together as a double A-side, making for one of the most significant Beatles singles ever, probably my favourite single ever of any band. So perhaps the most remarkable thing about Strawberry Fields Forever is just how timeless it feels. So unlike many of the psychedelic songs of the 60s, which can sound gimmicky or dated, this track still has that power to feel mysterious and like emotionally gripping. That's because it's not about drugs or surrealism or studio tricks. It's about something universal. The need to retreat, to remember, to reconcile with the past in order to help deal with the present. It's about accepting that not everything has to make sense to have meaning. And I think sometimes we all need to take a step back, whether we know it or not, when dealing with the next chapter in our lives. Sometimes we open the door and step right in. And some of us, well, we take a breath and look around first. That's what John did with Strawberry Fields. Without touring, he knew it would never be the same again. And he was right. I wanted to note too as well before I go that I think it's sad that John didn't have a place in 1966 that he felt like Strawberry Field did to him as a child. Lennon's famous line, "Nothing is real and nothing to get hung about," isn't just a throwaway lyric. Whenever Aunt Mimi used to scold him for sneaking over the fence to Strawberry Field, John apparently told her that it was nothing to get hung about. So is the inclusion of this lyric a snapshot of a memory he has of getting into trouble? Or does it mean, don't worry about it, it's going to be all right, I will be all right? In the end, Strawberry Fields Forever isn't meant to be like fully understood. That's the magic of the song. It's a song that lives in layers, in memories and in dreams and half-truths. It invites us to walk through the craziness of Lennon's mind and to sit in the garden of his childhood. John Lennon wished he had a strawberry field to escape to in 1966, a place to deal with his fame, his mind, his family, his depression, but unfortunately, he felt like he didn't have that, and all he could do is channel it into probably the best song ever written. Strawberry Fields is not a place you visit once, it's a place you return to again and again, finding something new each time. God bless you, John Lennon.
Strawberry Fields, it's pretty straightforward, isn't it? How's it go? Let me take you down, that's it.
Yeah.
It's just about me, really, or anybody else that is thinking like that.
Yeah, just a random
It's
question
just,
of thoughts.
I mean, it says it here. What's it say?
I mean,
It's
you've
pretty
forgotten.
straightforward, isn't it? It's just
No,
a
it's
bit of messing, and let's get away to Strawberry Fields.
Thanks very much for watching, guys. Hope you really enjoyed this. I don't know if you caught this early, but I said I'm doing a trilogy of videos on Strawberry Fields Forever. Well, I hope you all really enjoy it, and the next one will be dropping very shortly. So, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.